This is my reaction to the UFC 294 press conference, which featured Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski, Khamzat Chimaev, and Kamaru Usman. I'm going to go through the highlights of the press conference. A lot of questions were asked towards Dana White, which was really annoying because I feel like Usman got like 2 questions throughout the entire thing. Either way, I'm going to break down some of the highlights. First of all, it was a decent press conference. It wasn't the most exciting one in the world, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting maybe Khamzat Chimaev to get a little bit rowdy, but the rowdiest the crowd got was when an Indian appeared on the screen asking a question, and we'll get to that towards the end of this video, but we're going to start with some of the highlights here. So, I just woke up, by the way, and I've rubbed my right eye beyond belief, so I'm in pain, but it's all good. We're going to start with God. Anyway, Volkanovski says that Makhachev needs the crowd and all he needs are these hands, which was a decent one to start off with because Islam Makhachev was talking about the fact that the last fight was in enemy territory and this time he's got his crowd with him, this time they're with him and that type of stuff. And then Volkanovski says, hey, all I need are these. Hey, you can have the crowd, you can have that. I'm going to do a lot of Volk impressions to get me through this video. He said all he needs are these, and he held up his fist, which was a pretty good response for him. I felt like Volk was ready to go with the trash talk this time, you know what I mean? Makhachev says that Volk is there for a paycheck. Now, this is something that he constantly mentions, and this is something that a lot of Dagestani fighters constantly mention as well. Khabib used to do this. He said it about Holloway as well. It's like they can't fathom the idea of someone who's a champion being willing to step in on short notice in a less than ideal circumstance. Yes, Volkanovski's going to be getting paid more money, but at the end of the day, it can't be that much more. You know what I mean? He's already making good money. He already would have made good money defending at featherweight, so that's the sort of thing that these Dagestani fighters do. Makhachev's doing it to Volk now. Khabib was doing it to Holloway as well. When Holloway took that fight on the same contract that he fought for his last fight on in the featherweight division, even though he didn't even get paid anymore, Khabib was saying, you're here for money, you're not here for legacy. It's like they can't fathom the idea of not being at 100% when fighting, which I think is something quite telling of them. But either way, Volkanovski is stepping in, and it is kind of unfair to Makhachev that, you know, Volk gets to be put into a win-win situation, and he's in a lose-lose situation. It kind of does diminish his win. So respect to Makhachev as well for taking the fight. And Volk's response to that was, nah, you don't understand. See? When you put me in there... Nah, you didn't say that. But either way, he said it's not about money. And he said it's well-deserved, the extra money that he's getting. Don't get him wrong. But he said that there's a fire inside him. And he knows, and I think this is the main reason why Volk took this rematch anyway. Is he in a win-win situation? Yes. Is there more money? Yes. But at the same time, Makhachev's talking like he ain't going to be sticking around at lightweight. You know what I mean? He's saying if he wins this one against Oliveira when that fight was first booked, the rematch, he was saying how he wants to move up and fight the winner of Edwards versus Covington. So for Volkanovski, there's no guaranteeing that this rematch is ever going to happen, and he doesn't want to let that slide. So he was saying how there's a fire inside him burning, and he needs to avenge this loss, and he doesn't know when he's going to get the chance. So that was a decent response from Volkanovski. Makhachev made a lot of, not excuses, but hints towards reasons why he lost the first fight, and I've even mentioned this as well as like a very valid reason, like less of a rehydration window. We know how much Dagestanis need that rehydration compared to other fighters, and Makhachev was bringing that up a ton at the press conference, saying that, you know, last time it was pretty bad. I had some problems. Dana White can tell you about the problems I had on the scale and stuff like that. Like with the weight cut, he had some problems in the last fight, and that's understandable. Less of a rehydration window in Australia, but Makhachev was making a bit of a repeat occurrence to mention that during this press conference, and that was sort of like Volkanovski's chance to say, well, what do you mean by that? Go on, divulge. You want to mention it? You want to bring it up? So on you mention it, you know what I mean? Like, you kept mentioning the weight cut in the last fight and the problems that he had, and Volk was trying to sort of pressure it out of him to actually make some, like, heavy excuses and not dance around it at the press conference. So that sort of got Volk a little bit fired up, that Makhachev was complaining about a shorter rehydration window, and Volk was saying that he doesn't even need that extra rehydration. He focuses on his skills. He brings his skills to the table and all that stuff, and all that type of stuff. I don't even mean to say that, but yeah. Usman claims that his knees are fine. So there you go with Usman. He puts that to rest. Now, I am going to say this. Usman's literally said before in the past that his knees aren't fine. Like, we know that, though. You know what I mean? Like, I know that maybe he didn't say it popped out of place. First of all, he's never going to admit it or not. Maybe he did say, I'm going to go with Cosmo. I saw a lot of people saying that as well. And, you know, he next worked with Cosmo afterwards. But the look of concern on Gaethje's face when Usman said it made me think that he wasn't talking about going with Cosmo next. Either way, Usman's very openly mentioned that he can't even run because of how bad his knees are. So for him to say my knees are fine is like nothing further from the truth. Did he not pop it out of place at that open workout? Maybe. But those knees are not fine. They're finished, and they have been for like 5 years. Either way, we move on. Usman quoting the legend of Sean Strickland, saying that he's going to do the man dance. I guess that's relevant because the winner of that fight is maybe going to go on to fight Sean Strickland afterwards because the UFC has forgot about the existence of Dricus du Plessis. So he quoted Sean Strickland, and then Hamzat said, I'm not here to dance, brother. I'm here to kill and smash, brother. He's very weird, Hamzat, the way he speaks sometimes. Like, there's no volume in his words, right? Which is really weird. Like, there's literally no volume in the way he speaks whatsoever. And then to get, like, volume out of him, he has to sort of, like, hunch over into the microphone and start speaking about your smash, brother. I'm not here to dance with you, brother. I'm here to smash your brother. And I do the smash of his brother. And there's not really much enunciation from him. So you have to listen real closely to understand what Hamzat's saying sometimes. But he said he's not here to dance. He's here to kill and smash your face, brother. You know this. He's here to smash your face. Hamzat said he doesn't care who showed up. He's here to smash. Seeming like a bit of a one-trick pony here. Hamzat Chimaev mentioning how he's going to smash everyone, every press conference. Like, don't get me wrong. It's fun to hear it. But, hey, how about you destroy someone? Or you dominate someone? Or you beat someone up? Or... you know, some other way of describing what you're going to do on the weekend other than smash, brother. You know, hey, smash him, brother. Every answer being that is kind of repetitive. But at the same time, Chimaev was mentioning how he's going to smash him and the crowd was getting behind Chimaev. Hamzat claims he's the best. That was another highlight from him. Volk claims he's going full steam ahead, you know, and I'm going to get in there, go full steam ahead, and you're not going to stop me. So, hey, I'm ready to put it all on the line. I'm ready to go in there, put it on the line and all that type of stuff and go full steam ahead. So watch me. You know what I mean? He was mentioning that he's going to go and take it to Makhachev in the fight and try and make something happen as soon as he's free to. Makhachev then responds by saying he won 4 rounds of their first fight. I disagree. I thought he won 3 of them. I did think he won the first fight as well, and that's me saying it. So, you know, I think it should be on the scoring of MMA, Makhachev won that fight. I think 3-2, but there are going to be people that disagree with the scoring of MMA and say that the damage that Makhachev took in round 5 means more than the 3-4 rounds before that, however they were scored, and they're always going to have that mindset of what if there's no time limit and all this type of stuff. Either way, Makhachev also claimed that Volk only won 1 minute of their last fight, and that's why it was competitive, because he allowed Volk to win the last minute of their fight, which is kind of delusional because Volk was winning a lot of moments in that fight. Was he winning the rounds of that fight? That's another argument, but he definitely was winning moments of that fight throughout the fight, for sure. But yeah, he definitely dominated that last minute. Volkanovski keeps mentioning the excuses that Makhachev is making about the rehydration, and he starts going in on him the second time as well. He starts mentioning it a lot, like, go on, you got something to share? You want to talk? 30 hours? 26 hours? It's not enough, brother, huh? I bring my skills to the table. You know what I mean? He was mentioning that a bunch during this press conference. That was the main thing he had a problem with, Makhachev making excuses about the first fight and his performance. But because of how much weight Makhachev cuts and how much weight the Dagestanis in general cut, that rehydration window is massive for them. Like, as much as it can be seen as like, you know, he's not bringing skills to the table. Instead, he's bringing size and rehydration and weight cutting to the table. That is a part of the game. You know what I mean? That is absolutely a part of the game, and it is something that was affected it was something that Makhachev was affected by when he did go over to Australia to fight in Perth. So it's a reasonable excuse for Makhachev as to why his performance wasn't the best in Australia in February. So I think it's not a bad excuse. Is it bad to make excuses? Yes, but he has to give a reason when they ask him a question about it. Either way, Chimaev calls out Usman for losing, which I think is really rich from Chimaev, because the first time we've seen him against a top 5 opponent, he's gone tooth and nail with them in Gilbert Burns. He hasn't yet fought a top 5 opponent outside of Gilbert Burns, and that time he did, he went really, really to the death with Burns. Like, it was a really tough fight for him. And on another night, a judge could have given that fight to Burns, even though I did think Chimaev won the first and third round. Yeah. Which I think is really rich for an undefeated up-and-comer to say about someone like Usman, who's been at the top for a very long time. Of course, he's going to run into some losses. So that's something that Chimaev was getting him on, saying that you lost, brother, and so if you are best, why you lose, brother, and all this type of stuff he kept mentioning over again. I smash, brother, I smash you, brother. Mentioned that again about smashing him. And then Usman said, sometimes when you're at the top, you're going to lose. And it's a lesson that I'm willing to teach you, or something like that. And he's going to teach him the lesson this weekend of how to take a loss and why taking a loss is necessary and all that type of stuff. Khamzat says that Usman might as well be a coach because it's healthier for him. It's better for him to be a coach rather than to be a fighter at this point in his career, because I don't know why. I guess you just... he sees Usman as an older fighter. He mentioned that about the iPhone and a newer phone that came out or something like that. He keeps mentioning it about Usman being old, and he's the old model, and I'm the new generation of fighter coming up. So he's telling Usman to retire already, be a coach. It's better for your health. That was a decent thing for him. Also, Khamzat's doing this in like a third language. You know what I mean? He speaks English, then Swedish. I think a Swedish guy actually asked him a question. I could point out the Swedish dude in the crowd, by the way. As soon as I saw him in the background, I was like, who's this Jeff Molina type in the crowd? And then he came out with some Swedish. I was like, okay, makes sense. Either way, I've just woke up, by the way. Just woke up today. I haven't done anything. I came straight to the computer and watched a press conference and then did this reaction. This is pretty early for me because my schedule has been nocturnalized by the UFC being in the US for so long. So I'm on US hours. Either way. What else was I going to mention? Other things. Yes. Khamzat talking about Paulo Costa. Whenever the crowd member brought up Paulo Costa, there was some boos. Khamzat didn't like that he was being brought up and was saying that he shit his pants, brother. He shit himself, brother. You don't talk about this guy, brother. He shit himself. And all of this stuff that he kept mentioning about him. Then Dana sort of like commandeered that whole situation and started talking about, it was a real injury for Paulo Costa. It's a justifiable injury as to why he had to pull out of the fight. And then Chimaev said, be honest with them, brother. He shit himself and all this, which was a decent moment for him. And other than that, there was Makhachev that talking about John Jones, and Dana White sort of sent shots at John Jones's team, because if you don't know, that's the reason why Jones didn't take that fight with Chael Sonnen, is because Jackson Wink coaches were saying that he shouldn't take the fight, and they were the reason why Jones didn't take the fight. And that's even who Dana White was angry with in the first place anyway, when John Jones ruined that event by not taking on a short notice opponent. So Dana gave props to the coaches of both teams for being able to facilitate this on short notice and fly across the world if they need to, which is pretty cool. Abu Dhabi crowd sees an Indian man on the screen. And just starts booing viciously, to the point where even Dana's like, oh, what are we doing here? Why are you so mad at India? Why are we shitting on India for? You know what I mean? It was like a weird thing where the guy was asking him like, when you're going to come to India and all this type of stuff. And Dana was like, we're trying to find talent in India. Believe me, they're trying. They found Anshul Jabli, which is good. He's a good fighter, and I'm sure he might go on to do something. But everyone was just booing India beyond belief. They were just going after India. Like, the guy couldn't be on screen for more than a few seconds without people just absolutely laying into him. And Yeah, they started chanting about Pakistan. If you don't know the history, there's a reason why they're booing. You know what I mean? It's like a German guy popping up on screen in the UK and everyone booing. It's like, it's not the same thing, but it's just like there's historical context to why they're booing. If you don't know, the British kind of fucked up your great-grandparents in a way, worldwide. And we did some things, you know what I'm saying? And we partitioned India. I don't want to get into the whole full history of it. From what I remember, because basically UK schools on history is just like everything you did wrong as a person in your ancestry. That's basically UK schooling in history. If you don't know, India, Pakistan, after India declared independence, part of the Independence Act was to split India and Pakistan so that the Muslims could go somewhere and non-Muslims could go another place, and that led to some of the Indians that led to some of the Indians calling Muslims that were in India non-Indians, and there was like a rivalry between them, and there was a bunch of risky stuff that went on. People had to move, and stuff happened. People were sent to the gulag for it. Let's just say, I don't want to use too many pure terminologies here to avoid getting demonetized, but some people visited the gulag now and again about the whole situation, and there was like a massacre of Juma, and I don't even want to get into all. I've learned about some stuff with that when I was growing up, and it's some tricky history. So there's going to be some historical beef between the Muslims and Indians. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Grow up is what I say. No, I'm joking. Either way, they were booing the Indians. Even later on in the crowd, an Indian kid popped his head into the camera, and everyone was just like, boo! Immediately. Upon the sight of him. Crazy. But we'll see what Luke Thomas has to say. I'm sure he'll be up in arms about this. I'm joking. He won't say anything. Massive divide between them. That's why they were booing him. It wasn't just because they don't like the way he looks or anything like that. There is like historical context to it. It's like never mind. Let's not stop making comparisons. Volk calls out Makhachev again for the excuses about rehydration. He kept trying to drive this one home. And then he also mentioned like Hezbollah. Who do you think's going to win this weekend, eh? And all this. And Hezbollah was just like silent in the crowd as the camera tried to find him and didn't have a microphone, so he couldn't respond anyway. Usman had 0 questions. Other than that, Chimaev mogged Usman at the face-offs, but Chimaev's looking a little bit leaner than Usman. But I would love to have seen Chimaev like rear himself up and stand tall, because he does seem at least a few inches taller than Kamaru Usman and seem like the bigger fighter out there. I don't know what Usman's obsession is with wearing like see-through tops. Never understood that whatsoever. But Chimaev kind of mogged him. Makhachev and Volk had a bit of a respectful face-off after some trash talk at the press conference, and Hezbollah brought out the belt and stood between them at the end. Little promotional tool there by the UFC. Yeah, that's that. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.